On March 22, 2011, employees at Dr. Promila Mehta-Paul's office arrived to get ready for another busy day of patients and appointments. There's one problem. The doctor never arrives. Always reliable and communicative, they know it's unlikely that she wouldn't have called if something came up, and soon they, along with her family and friends, are flooding the local police offices with calls wondering where she is. But when police check her home, it's clear she hasn't been there for days. This is her story.
Hi, I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Amy.
And you're listening to She Goes by Jane. At the end of this episode and every episode, we will be joined by a special guest who will read an original poem by Amy Baker about the women we're featuring. This week we are joined by Mouzam Makkar.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Amy.
Vanessa, we just aired our episode about Deanna Merrifield, who was 13 when she went missing. And I said at the start of that episode that I felt like it hit 2 points that are like kind of like pain points for you, like when episodes have teenagers involved and also cases in which someone's been coded as a runaway.
Right. Those things bother me.
Right.
Yes.
This one is like my 2 points that kind of intersect.
Okay.
And that's cases that involve family violence, particularly child-on-parent violence. And also ones that involve like mental health and substance abuse. And it's mostly because those like mirror experiences that I had as a kid. So this one is like particularly painful for me.
Okay. So how was the research then for it?
It was rough, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually one thing that happened in Deanna's episode is that we were talking about requesting her file. And we were talking about how short.
Well, you actually read the entire thing.
I did read
during the episode
entire
because
thing.
it was basically, was it 2 sentences?
We're going to be very generous and call it a paragraph.
We'll call it a paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you said, oh, is that the shortest? And I was like, no. And the reason I said no is because this one's
shorter?
This one is actually shorter. So to get started with this episode, I wanted to read the entirety of the police report that we were sent from the Munster Police Department.
So 2 full police reports in a row.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Yeah. This is the police report for incident 11MU01381, taken on March 24th, 2011. The responding officer is E. Stribjek, and the narrative says, officers requested to check the residence for well-being due, and due is spelled wrong in the police report, to the subject not showing up for appointments and not being heard from since Monday, 3/21/11.
So that's all.
That's all they sent us.
So just, they did 1 check on the residence because that person didn't show up to something.
Yeah, so to be clear, her file is much larger.
Okay, this is the only part they'd released to you.
Oh, yes, they definitely
Than
have
just that. But they're just not sharing.
Exactly.
Okay.
They were not in a sharing mood with us. So yes, with thanks to the Munster Police for that illuminating response, we did have to use other sources to construct this episode. So Vanessa, let's begin with this story.
Okay.
On Tuesday, March 22nd.
We're going right in with the dates.
Yes.
Okay.
We're just
diving right in.
We're diving right in.
Okay. Go for it.
Okay. So on March 22nd, 2011, it's a Tuesday. Office staff are reporting for work at Surgery and Diseases of the Eye, which is a medical office on Kennedy Avenue in Highland, Indiana, owned by Dr. Promila Mehta-Paul. As usual, they got to the office, got it all ready for the incoming patients who were scheduled to meet with the doctor that day. But when their opening time passed and the minutes ticked on, it became clear that there was a problem. Dr. Mehta-Paul hadn't arrived.
So we're just starting completely with just like the disappearance.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have anything before, or is this entire story going to be the after?
So I'm going to share a little bit about her. Promila, she was born on September 19th, 1940 in India, and she had attended the University of Madras and Punjab Medical College, and then graduated from Christian Medical College in Ludhiana, India in 1965. In 1971, she married Shashi Paul in Punjab, India, and he was also a doctor, but he specialized in pediatrics. And not long after, it seems that the couple was living and working in Illinois. But sometime prior to 1991, they and their 3 sons moved to Indiana. Now, their marriage, it lasted 20 years before she filed for divorce in 1991. And once this was finalized 4 years later, she moved her practice to Kennedy Avenue in Highland. She was really active in her community. It looks like she had hospital privileges and that she'd serve as president of the Lake County Medical Society Alliance. So she's out there doing things community active. Now, at the age of 70, Dr. Mehta-Paul had been a reliable and regular fixture in providing healthcare services. Everyone knew she wouldn't have missed appointments. If something had come up, she would certainly have called her staff and informed them so they could reschedule those appointments. And so by the next day, Wednesday, both the Highland and Munster police departments were apparently flooded with concerned friends, family, and employees both locally and internationally who knew that this was out of the ordinary for her. It's quite obvious from the start that there's concerns for Promila. So local police check her home on Twin Creek Boulevard in Munster. Police say that to them, at least, it looks like she might not have been there for a few days. The fact that she wasn't answering her phone was baffling to those who knew her. And police checked her financial records and there was no recent activity on her cards.
Does anyone know when she was last seen or heard from at this point?
Yeah, so like a lot of the cases that we talk about, it does seem like this might not be taking off for a while, but we do know in the initial investigation, they are collecting information, and that the night before, Monday, March 21st, at around 5 p.m., they have some recordings of her. She'd planned to leave work and go to a branch of First Financial that was near her office. And police were quickly able to confirm that she had made it there because she was photographed by the security camera at around 5 p.m. that night. The photo shows Promila stepping from her 2001 gold Toyota RAV4 with the door still open and a white envelope, presumably holding a deposit in her hand. In their initial investigation, it becomes clear that Promila is indeed missing. There's no other signs of her past this moment, but also so is this vehicle.
So she goes missing on Tuesday. She was last seen on Monday.
Yeah.
Okay. But they're saying it didn't look like she's been in her apartment for a little while, so that just confused me.
So they don't go there until at least Wednesday or Thursday.
But she had been at her apartment up until Monday.
Or her house, likely. Yeah.
Her house, okay.
They think.
Okay.
So around 1 week into her disappearance. So
we waited a while.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think one of the things I was thinking about is like that often there's like investigative stuff that is happening, but that the public isn't necessarily aware of it.
Right.
Yeah. So like we, for instance, this week, there was a murder in our town, and news is making its way out very slowly.
Yes. The rumors came in hard and fast.
Yes.
Then we finally had some clarity.
Right.
But it stopped there.
Yes. There's just the release of the victims.
But we do know things are happening.
But we do know things are happening. It's just not...
It's not for us to know.
Not yet, no.
No.
So that's what I think is happening in her
because I mean, it does seem like they were reviewing tapes and they're doing other things, right? So
yeah, so they're doing stuff.
Doing stuff, but it's just none of our business yet.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so actually what a lot of this case is going to be is that it becomes clear over time there's information to be had, but that's not released to the public for quite a while. And so we're kind of going to walk kind of a tightrope between those two things, right? So it takes a week until they're making more public statements about their search. Okay. They said that in this time they had visited her home again and spoken to her oldest son who was staying there with her and her 2 other sons who lived out of state. They also said that at that time they had checked on a house across the street that she had been house sitting for some neighbors who were away on vacation. And they had made clear that they had done an initial search of Twin Creek Park, which is near her home, as well as searched her home office and the subdivision she lived in, as well as the wooded areas and creek that ran behind her property. And for some reason as well, they searched along the railway tracks on 45th Avenue. So they're physically out there looking for her. When reporters asked, he did say this was not probable given her history. He also added that she didn't exhibit signs of depression, which would have opened up a likelihood of death from suicide or any health issues like Alzheimer's. And so we talked about dementia and Alzheimer's risks in our episode on Bessie Kutnick and how there should be different search protocols for those missing individuals. So it's good that they are at least addressing this and thinking
At her
through
age,
that.
it's good to think through it as a possibility. I mean, Alzheimer's can happen much younger than this even, so it's good to think that through.
Exactly.
And you don't know if like another medical emergency would have happened.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different factors, and it seems like, at least from an investigative standpoint, that they are considering those factors.
Okay.
Looking for more information about her disappearance, though, reporters even spoke to her ex-husband, Shushi. His and Promila's divorce, by all accounts, had been very contentious and messy, with millions of dollars at stake. And during this, she had accused her ex in the past of physical abuse. Even after the divorce ended, the court cases continued on for years, largely because it seemed that she was accusing him of essentially plundering her retirement account and then hiding those funds from her. That's really an incredibly reductive version of this. This like total, I think, went on for like 15 years.
Okay.
But that's basically a summary of what happened.
Now, did he live close to her at this time?
Well, it's not any wonder he's initially a suspect, because even though he had opened up a practice in La Jolla, California, he was still maintaining an office in Munster and kind of, it seems like, going between the two. So
it's definitely possible. It's not like he was like across the country when it happened.
yeah, well, so he actually might have been in California at the time, but like, you know, you can move pretty quickly between spaces. So he was, I think, in their circle of consideration for a while. But even despite all of their differences and the very long and contentious situation between them, he made clear that he didn't wish her harm in this moment. And this was primarily for the sake of their 3 sons. They're all adults at this point, the sons, but he's still considering, you know, how this might affect them. He said, "As a father, I'm worried about my sons having to deal with the disappearance of their mother." As for further information, he kind of shut down reporters by saying, "For the sake of the investigation, I will not reveal the nature of my cooperation with the police."
So about how old are her kids at this point?
So the oldest is in his like mid 30s.
Okay.
I didn't check the other sons' names for their privacy reasons, but yeah, so he's in that range.
And that's the one that lives with her.
Yes.
Okay.
And so at this time, the investigation is moving, but it's apparent, at least to me, that the police weren't exactly sure where to look for her in those early weeks. By March 30th, divers are searching a pond near her home and also nearby in Centennial Park Golf Course. That's being searched by police and horse-mounted volunteers. They say there's no evidence that she's in either location, but it just seems like there isn't much evidence leading somewhere, so they're just looking just in case.
Doesn't hurt.
Exactly. Okay, so now we're going to get into the part that, you know, there's stuff going on that the public was not aware of at the time that later becomes clear, but hopefully this is arranged in a way that makes some sort of sense. The first indication that police have some sort of lead largely goes unremarked upon by the media. And so in hindsight, it's clear what's happening, but like at the time, not so much. In their searches, police have yet to find her RAV4, but they updated their information to include that there was a possibility that people should be looking for her RAV4 with her Indiana plate on it, or that it might have a California plate on it, specifically her oldest son's California plate. Later, they report that this addition is because her son's Acura is parked in her garage and it is missing one of its license plates.
So do they have the numbers of all those plates that they're looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
They ask her son about this license plate situation at some point, and he says he doesn't know where his plate is.
So he doesn't know where his own license plate went.
That's what he's saying.
Okay.
Okay. The second clue that things are happening is that police state 1 month in that they're working on her case full time and that they have questioned her sons again, one specifically in California. Since she did have 3 sons, this could have been any of them, but we later learned that it is indeed her eldest son that they have questioned. Then on May 6th, reporters gather outside of her home and watch as her home is searched by FBI agents. Reporters say that the agents and evidence technicians can be seen through the windows searching the home and searching through boxes in the garage. By 2:35 p.m., a local tow company arrives and actually tows the son's blue Acura from the garage. And the reporters report that this car has no license plates on it. Once this car is removed and towed away, the FBI drove an evidence van into the garage.
So it feels like a lot's going on. For like not having a lot to go on, we've been just like checking fields and ponds, and now all of a sudden we're just taking everything.
Yeah, so this is like a huge flurry of activity. It's like a dramatic moment in this case. It's like, I'm imagining if you're there, you feel like, okay, something's going to happen.
Right. Like it went from nothing to everything, like all at once.
Exactly. Reporters are asking the neighbors, but even the neighbors are keeping quiet about this. They're opting not to speak, except for one who does, James Stout. He simply says that his kids and hers grew up together in the neighborhood and that he would see her at school meetings when their children still went to school. And just after, he would see her occasionally, usually out in her garden. But other than that, neighbors are silent. So despite this flurry of activity, not much about her case is revealed beyond that this evidence is collected and her story falls out of the local news cycle. That does change in September, so months later. On September 9th, the Munster police chief said, "The disappearance of Dr. Promila Mehta-Paul is likely the result of a criminal act. We believe she's now deceased." And then he drops what is likely a huge bombshell for the local community. Their suspect in her disappearance, their person of interest in her disappearance and murder, is none other than her eldest son.
So they definitely, the searches were, like when they took his car, they were definitely looking at his things.
Exactly. So the reality of what is going on behind the scenes, like what we're not all seeing, is complicated and much more complicated than it seemed from the outside. What we now know is that police were moving much more quickly than it initially appeared. At the time of her disappearance, Promila's eldest son, P, is living with her. Now, to be clear, this man does have a birth name and also a name he changed it to later. But since both conveniently start with the letter P, we're going to go with that. P had a long history of run-ins with law enforcement in several states. This included 2 felony charges and 8 misdemeanors. Those were for a variety of reasons, such as battery, public intoxication, refusal to identify himself, DUIs, and more. A lot of these are connected to addictions issues, and throughout the years, he had been in and out of treatment facilities, he says himself, 6 or 7 times. These repeated encounters with law enforcement were obviously difficult for his family to handle. One of the things that I speak and write about often is family violence. And one of the least reported and recognized types of family violence is child-to-parent violence, which means violence where the child is the perpetrator and not their parent or adult.
Right. That really doesn't get talked about very much.
It does not. It's like vastly underreported.
If you ask most people, they'd probably say it rarely happens.
Yeah. And the numbers are what they are because those aren't reported. There's lots of shame and embarrassment, particularly for parents, even when the child is no longer underage and is an adult, right?
Well, I think it can be embarrassing enough even just with like domestic violence. Like a lot of people say that they feel embarrassed to speak up. It's going to feel even more when it's your kid doing it.
Right, because there's like this...
Like, shouldn't you have control of your child?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this can happen with young children, right? Teenagers, but also adult children. It's not obvious to me when this started in the Mehta-Paul household, but we do know in 2001, so 10 years before she disappeared, one of her other sons called the Dyer police and asked them to check on his mother. He said that at the time P had some type of undiagnosed mental disorder and that he was concerned that P could be a danger to himself or others.
Are we clear at this point? Is he living with her because he needs the support?
Yeah, well, we're going to get like a little bit more into his history because it's clear that she's been kind of like the place he returns to.
Right.
So in this like 2001 incident when one of the other sons is concerned about her safety, the Dyer police do reach out to her. And when they do, she says that P had indeed choked and pushed her a few days before while he was irate. She indicated that in the past, she had gone with him to mental health centers in order to get him help. Reportedly, she said that she was concerned that he had an anger problem and requested a number for adult protective services and said that she would reach out to them. It's unclear if she ever did so or if anyone took this report seriously at the time. Again, in my experience watching this happen in my own family when I was a kid, like the people who should be responding the police rarely do, but that's true for a lot of domestic and intimate partner violence as well. Like,
It's not taken seriously.
exactly. But even so, as his parent, it looks like she tried to provide a space for him in her own home, particularly when he was going through a rough spot. In 2009, he'd been convicted of a burglary charge. An original part of this case involved charges for an assault with a caustic chemical, but this part was dropped from that case. Instead, he was convicted and given 2 years for the burglary charge. And he was released after serving less than 1 year of his sentence and got out in July 2010. So we're roughly 7-ish months out from when Promila disappeared.
It always makes you wonder, like, what would happen if people had to serve their entire time?
Yeah, or what if this guy who's like repeatedly in and out gets some sort of actual help? Like, it seems like he does get help, but it's like not the type that he needs or whatever. At some point in there, after he gets out, he does return to Indiana where he is living with his mom. But even Promila, at this point, seems to have hit her limit. One of her friends would later say that shortly before she disappeared, she'd been contemplating kicking him out of her home and taking him to a homeless shelter. And just 4 days before she disappeared, P pled guilty to a misdemeanor DUI charge. This is just guessing on my part, but I'm assuming this latest charge added even more tension to an already tense household.
I can imagine. And if he is dealing with substance abuse, like, you know, he could have been at this point like, oh yeah, I'm getting help or I'm doing better. And then here's proof that
that's not.
That he did fall off the wagon at this point, you know?
Yeah.
At least. Or there could be a lot more to it than either of us know.
Exactly.
It too.
Yeah, because we don't know the inner workings and dynamics here. We can just kind of glean some clues, right?
Right. And like they said mental illness, but we don't know what exactly aside from substance abuse.
So the brother just said an undiagnosed illness. So
that could be anything.
Yeah. We'll be back in a moment. We do know that Promila was last seen on Monday, March 21st, and apparently just 2 days later, he was calling places and canceling her appointments. So this would have been on the Wednesday, just as police were becoming aware that she was missing. And we also know that despite living with her, P is not the one who reported her missing. He did not make a call.
Was it someone at work?
So it was like her other family and friends and colleagues, not him.
Okay.
Later, when a family friend asked specifically where Promila was, he said that he had dropped her off at a bus terminal because she had plans of traveling to India to attend a family member's funeral. Allegedly, when police first made contact with him about his mother's disappearance, he seemed unconcerned and refused to talk with him further. Around this time, too, P also, unbeknownst to everyone on the, outside reading the media, he also disappears. Police were unable to locate him or contact him for, further communications about his mother's disappearance. On March 26th, so 5 days after she was last seen, Border Patrol at the border crossing in San Ysidro, so the border between Mexico and California, picked P up as he attempted to cross the border back into the U.S. on foot.
Okay, so he didn't get very far.
Well, he did.
He did, but he's picked right back up after he disappeared, right?
Well, I see he's been gone for, I think, a few days at least, and he was crossing back into the U.S.,
right.
So he had made it to Mexico.
Why would he cross back?
I have no idea what was going on, but I do know that on him, they found the license plate for his mom's missing 2001 RAV4.
So he's walking around, he's on foot, right?
Yes.
He's on foot carrying a license plate.
Yes, to her missing
her missing vehicle, not his car.
No.
So he was over dumping car.
We don't know. We just know
possibly
he's walking back.
For some reason, bringing the plate.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
I have questions.
Yeah, those questions might not be answered.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Munster police, they get word that he's been detained for crossing illegally. Mm-hmm. And so they travel to California to question him. In his statements that he gave at that time, he allegedly said that his mother was not suicidal, but he did claim that she abused prescription drugs and that the last time he saw her, she was buzzed and taking a number of pills. He declined to offer more information, but he did say that he was concerned about her.
He's showing it in a weird way.
Yeah. And so despite this like oddity of him leaving Indiana and having possession of her plate from her missing car, police at the time don't have much more to go on. And so at that point, he's not charged with any crimes. So they're not charging him with crimes, but around July, he seems to be back in the area and living back in her house. With her missing, he actually tries to get legal control of her estate, which would include business assets, personal property, and financial assets. This was blocked quite quickly by one of the other brothers, who asked that a management company, so basically an outside party, did this instead, given that she was missing. This battle between them kind of goes on for months, with P wanting financial control and the other brother saying no.
Is the other brother the one in control of her property at this point?
So no one is technically. That's why they're asking.
So what happens in a case like that?
So basically they're waiting for a court case for a judge to decide who should be in charge.
So it just sits there empty and the primary suspect is like allowed to live there in the meantime?
Yeah. Well, he's a person of interest, technically.
The person of interest is just allowed to
Live there. Yes.
Okay.
In September, though, he pulls another move that's not going to become apparent for, I think, a few more months. He has actually been driving a 2010 black Toyota RAV4 that was registered to PMP Associates, which was the healthcare operation owned and run by Promila.
So he didn't get rid of it. He painted it?
No. So
okay, this is a different one.
This is, yeah. I
what
think
was the other one?
A 2001 gold RAV4. This is a 2010 black RAV4.
Okay. So
clearly, like, I think she had like...
Okay, so the RAV4 threw me off. So she definitely has a brand.
Yes.
So, okay, so the gold one's still missing. This is me being confused, guys. Sorry. The gold one is missing, but he's got a black one. Both of them belong to his mom.
Well, so technically one belongs to her personally, I believe, the gold one. And the black one is like was purchased for her business.
After her disappearance?
No.
Before. Okay.
So this is like a business expense, business vehicle.
Okay.
So just days after he's been pinpointed as a person of interest, he sells her car, this black RAV4. He brings it to Frankie's Auto Sales in Dyer on September 13th and tells them that he is the chief financial officer of PMP Associates, and that gives him the ability to sell this vehicle. None of that is true, but he does sign the title over and the sale goes through and he makes $17,750 on the deal. The very next day, he agrees with his brother that a third party, this management company, should actually be appointed to control their mother's assets. This ends up being pushed back on by a judge in this case who wanted a different appointed guardian, but I just think it's interesting that he basically illegally sells her vehicle one day and pockets a good amount of money, and then the next day he's agreeing with his brother that, yeah, someone else should have control over her estate. So during this entire period, he is still a person of interest in her disappearance, but they're not able to move forward with this case. After all, she's still missing. Her 2001 gold RAV4, that's still missing, except for its license plate, which they've found. And then there's no concrete evidence that they've released, at least, that he did something to her. So I can't imagine what the local police are thinking at this point, but we do know that on Friday, October 7th, police get a call about a potential domestic disturbance at Promila's home, and they arrive there at 7:11 p.m. When they get there, they can hear a woman, who is later identified as P's 35-year-old girlfriend. She's inside screaming, and then they hear a man yelling. From outside, police identify themselves and order P to open the door, but all he does is yell obscenities at them and tell them that they would need a search warrant if they intended to enter. At this point, though, they entered through an unlocked door, and P tried to slam the door on them. When they placed him against the wall and attempted to handcuff him, he struggled, kicking them in the process. On the way to Lake County Jail, he started complaining about injuries, so they brought him to a community hospital first. But he ended up being booked for battery to law enforcement, resisting law enforcement, disorderly conduct, battery, and possession of drug paraphernalia. All of that lands him in the Lake County Jail for actually quite a while. And so I'm not clear when it was discovered that he sold her 2010 RAV4, but by October 2012, he takes a plea deal. So like a year later, he takes a plea deal. He'll plead guilty to forgery in the sale of her car if they'll dismiss the charges that stemmed from this domestic disturbance call. And it's done. It's agreed on. On October 9th, 2012, he's sentenced to 5 years in prison in order to pay back the $17,750.
Do we know what happened to his girlfriend?
No, we do know she's okay.
She is okay? Okay.
Yes. But, yeah.
Nothing more with that.
She reappears soon.
She does. Okay.
Yeah. And so, despite the fact that he took this plea deal, right, the sentencing itself doesn't sit well with him. He tries to appeal in 2013, and he argues that this amount of jail time was excessive given the nature of the offense.
Okay.
Yeah. He also tried to argue it down based on his character and says that he should be given this reduction in sentence and it should be served in a community corrections program.
So we should base things more on character.
Yes.
What character has he proven so far?
Yeah, so he does end up saying basically, like, I know I've gotten, this is not officially what it says, but it's basically, I know I've gotten in trouble in the past, but that was because of my addictions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's blaming his substance abuse on
Yes.
anything he's done.
Right. And he says, like, basically, given the crime, given who he is as a person, that he feels that the 5 years is excessive. This doesn't happen. He's really rebuffed on this. But even so, he's still released in April 2014. So of that 5 years, he serves about a year and a half of that sentence.
Well, and, I mean, he only served half of his last sentence, too. So,
Yeah.
like, there's no need for him to think it's excessive because he never gets the whole time.
Right. Yeah. And so while he is in prison, though, the 2-year anniversary of her disappearance passes, and the local paper does do a story on her case. They report that her things are still inside the home, and outside the motion-activated light on her garage still comes on as people pass by. Detective Sergeant Ray Schweitzer says that they don't actively investigate her disappearance anymore at this point, 2 years in. The only time they revisit it was when new tips come in, and generally those are from other agencies. And Munster Detective Mike Janiga says that at this point, it would be up to the Lake County prosecutor to file charges since they feel they know who was responsible for her disappearance. He says, it's really frustrating. It's like knowing who stole your purse, but not being able to prove it.
Or like knowing who killed a woman, but not being able to prove it.
Yeah. Yeah. Bad analogy.
It is so bad. I'm still stuck with the purse thing. Like,
Sir. Sir.
You're saying basically the same thing,
Yeah.
but calling the person a
Purse. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Go for it.
And that's really where things would have sat for a while if it wasn't for P's ex-girlfriend coming forward to speak with investigators. We do know that P is arrested in January 2019, so that's 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In Las Vegas, where he was living at the time. But this isn't made public until he's extradited back to Indiana in March 2019. Apparently, in October 2018, P's girlfriend went to authorities with new information. She says that 4 months before Promila disappeared, she had seen P assault his mother. She says that her own relationship with P was abusive and that at one point he'd strangled her and tried to pour bleach down her throat. She also said that in November 2010, she had been at a party with him when he began strangling her. She says that she was able to push him off, but after she went home with him to Promila's house, and he was still angry. She says that he kicked a glass table in his house hard enough to break his knee, and she fled from him. She returned a few minutes later when she heard Promila screaming and found them on the staircase of Promila's home where P was strangling her. So the girlfriend says that even though she was able to pull P off, Promila's concern was for her son, and she asked for him to be driven to a psychiatric hospital where he could be evaluated for his abusive behavior and for addictions to the prescription medications and other drugs that she felt were contributing to this. During this time, Promila allegedly told the girlfriend that P had attacked Promila in the past, and that at one point he had strangled her until she was unconscious. And she says that when she woke up, she woke to him shoving pills down her throat.
Okay, so he does seem to, like, have this pattern of, like, strangling people.
Yeah, I should make clear that all of this is alleged.
Right.
So he's not been convicted of...
But then he accused his mom of taking pills, but he's also been, like, we're hearing through the girlfriend that he might have made his mom take pills in the past.
Yeah, so this is,
It's all hearsay through the girlfriend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just sounds like a lot of, like if what the girlfriend's saying, like, similar behaviors.
Right, because she's alleged that he had also strangled her and tried to pour bleach down her throat. Right. So these are patterns of behavior, certainly. But again, he's not been convicted of the abuse against the girlfriend, nor these abusive moments with his mom.
Okay.
So we do know that he was arrested, and after this, it's in 2019 that more information is released about this case. And these are details that investigators were likely sitting on for years, waiting for more information and more witnesses. According to reports, P and Promila had gotten into an argument the day she disappeared over a window that P had kept on leaving open during the colder months, thereby upsetting his mom by running up the heating bills. Then, on Monday night, 2 witnesses said that they were at a party with P that was being held across the street from Promila's house. So if you remember, she was last seen on that security camera at 5 p.m. So this would have been later that night. I'm just making a guess here, but I'm assuming that this location was actually the house where Promila was house sitting, because that house was described as being across the street from her residence. These witnesses said that Promila came to the house in what was described as being in medical distress. They claimed that she was topless and only wearing her underwear. She threw up on the porch, and they could see that she had scratches on her chest. When they asked P what had happened to her, he claimed that she had tried to commit suicide after the death of a relative.
First off, like, where were these witnesses then? And, like, secondly, didn't he already specifically tell police that she wasn't suicidal?
Yeah, so where were the witnesses? I feel like the investigators had these witnesses for a while. As for was she suicidal?
Right.
Yeah, he had told investigators when they spoke to him in California after he had crossed over the border that she was not suicidal.
Right.
So it feels like he just changes his story to kind of fit the mood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the same witness to her coming up on the porch, throwing up, being told this by P, they said that Promila was speaking in a language that they didn't understand, likely, I'm guessing, Hindi, since that was her first language, and that P refused to call 911, and said that the reason he gave for refusing to call is that if someone came, it opened up the possibility for her to lose her medical license.
So back to saying that she had substance abuse issues.
Yes. So instead, she was placed in a cold shower to revive her. Unfortunately, the witness, and this would have been a key witness in this case, had died by suicide themselves in 2011. And so that's how we know that this statement was given previously. There's a second witness who says that they saw Promila in the shower and that they were told by P to leave her there. They said that when they left the party, Promila was not moving, and when they asked P if she could be dead, he said it was possible. This witness says that they regret not doing more or pushing the issue then.
I can't help but think that the one who died by suicide might have had those feelings too.
It's like a lot of weight to be in this situation.
Right. If you're already, like, depressed and then something like this happens, it would be really hard to deal with.
Yeah. So we don't know that witness or what they were going through in their everyday life, but all of this is just a lot. They were, some of the last people to see Promila. So this case is kind of shaky because we have one witness who has passed away. But despite that, prosecutors did decide to move forward. Much of the above is what we know because P's lawyer sought bail before the trial in this case. The lawyer believed that the evidence against him was simply circumstantial, and P's lawyer said, "The minute evidence collected does not indicate anything except that she was there and perhaps injured herself upon hitting the floor."
It doesn't seem like that's what happened.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, to say that minute evidence collected and like that she injured herself. Maybe she fell down.
Yeah, and just like, this is just absolutely just me thinking through things, but like the girlfriend said, strangling and then putting something down their throat. There's scratches on her chest. Like, she might have been trying to like loosen his grip while he was putting something in her mouth. And if she's throwing up, obviously that could have been some sort of poison or pills or something like that.
So this is definitely, like, this is a shaky case.
Right, but like it all kind of fits into what the girlfriend says. Like this part. Like all the witnesses seem to be saying similar things that do make sense together.
Right. But this is one of those cases, like anytime you bring a case to trial, everything has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, right?
Definitely.
And there is, as far as we know, no witness who actually witnessed him in that moment doing something to his mom. We just have potential past behavior.
The only thing we have is him saying to leave her in the shower and like, oh, she could be dead.
Exactly.
That's all we have. And like, but then there's like the weird stuff with the license plate.
Exactly.
And stuff like that too. So, and the brother having past concern, and it just, like you said, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt, but the pieces seem to fit.
Yeah. So, which is why the prosecutor, Lake County Supervisory Deputy Prosecutor Michelle Jetquix, said that there was an overwhelming evidence that P lied at every turn regarding the whereabouts of his mother, and that furthermore, P knew that Dr. Mehta-Paul was not returning home when he threw away her belongings and filed for guardianship of her estate, and that he knew she was dead because he murdered her. Which is a pretty strong statement from the prosecutor.
Right.
Given that he had previously been picked up along the U.S.-Mexican border, they had a pretty good standing that he shouldn't receive bail because he was a flight risk. So he stayed in jail awaiting trial. In July 2021, the week before the trial was to start, there was a scheduled pretrial hearing to determine whether or not the ex-girlfriend's testimony would be used. And you're right, like a lot is riding on her. Primarily the statements that she had in the past seen him attack his mother, and that she was told by his mother that he had in the past tried to drug her. So that's indicating some past behavior for him. And so definitely the defense would want this taken out, right? But something happens that week, I'm not sure what, because before the decision on the girlfriend's testimony is decided, and before he can go to trial, he actually takes a plea deal. In exchange for providing information about her disappearance and what happened to her body, he would plead guilty to reduced charges, specifically obstruction of justice and failure to report a body. According to his plea agreement, this would be a 4-year sentence on both counts.
So when you do something like this, so he's not admitting he did it, but he's admitting he knew it happened?
Yes.
So he's still not getting any punishment for the crime.
Well, so those are crimes.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
But not the crime.
So they were going for a murder charge.
Yes.
Right? So this ends up not being a murder charge. It just is like, I didn't report a dead body, and I purposefully did not help in the pursuit of investigating this case.
And they never ended up finding her?
Well, so his part of it is that he has to tell what happened. So he sits down with the FBI agents in the Lake County Prosecutor's Office, and he gives an hour-long statement. He claims in this statement that he found her dead on March 21st, 2011, but did not call 911 or report her death. Instead, he decided to dispose of her remains himself in order to hinder the investigation into her disappearance. Now, why he would do that, I'm not sure. It makes no sense. And because he had been awaiting trial and he was in jail, he received credit for time served, which was 2 years and 3 months. With this credit, he had completed his sentence according to the sentencing guidelines, and he was ordered released. And so he served no additional time for his role in her disappearance.
I don't know. It doesn't seem right.
No.
No.
In 2022, one of Promila's other sons petitioned for Promila to be declared dead. But despite this, and despite P's confession, neither Promila or her SUV have ever been found. And as of today, Promila is still missing.
We are now going to listen to Amy's poem, What the Eye Can't See, read by Mouzam Makkar. Mouzam is an actor, writer, and filmmaker. She was last seen recurring as Commander Nouri on Paramount Plus's SEAL team and in the series' regular role of Jennifer McDuffie on Naomi for the CW. She also voices 2 characters on the recently released space action RPG Xbox game, Starfield. Mouzam has also been a series regular on ABC's The Fix and NBC's Champions, created by Mindy, Kaling, and Grandy. She has recurred on shows like Law & Order SVU, NCIS, The Exorcist, The Vampire Diaries, and Chicago Fire, with guest star roles in American Horror Story and Bones, to name a few. Mouzam is a graduate of the school at Steppenwolf and the Improv and Sketch Writing programs at the Second City in Chicago. During the strike, she wrote, produced, and starred in the short film Maggie's Not Okay, which is currently in post-production.
What the Eye Can't See. Promila Mehta-Paul, 70. Missing since March 21st, 2011, from Munster, Indiana. The human eye can recover from injury in days, but the way her son's hands feel, marking her body, is as much her surrender as when he was inside her body. There is no way to recover from this, or understand why the human eye cannot see the colors of a passing car in the dark without the moon to light the landscape below in slivers. Though she sees the way to light the pathways across her son's palm, everything is already dying and living out here in the dark.
For more information about our show or to check out other shows on the network, please visit evergreenpodcasts.com. Bye, Vanessa.
Bye, Amy.